now at public events that Homeland Security has where counties and cities with your tax money send police to be brainwashed. And this latest one is State and Local Anti-Terrorism Training Reference Manual. And we'll put a shot of that up on screen here. And the folks that are basically listed in there are people that are investigating the Oklahoma City conspiracy, not believing any official story. If the government told you the moon was made of cheese and you questioned it, that's a conspiracy theory. If you question known liars, that's conspiracy theory. And, of course, I've been exposing Oklahoma City for 16 years. Many others have been exposing it. And the Red Dirt Report, headed up by its founder, Andrew W. Griffin, is doing a lot of original investigative reporting, amazing footwork. It's going into a new film coming out in a few months, The Noble Lie, getting into Oklahoma City with a lot of new information. And the headline is Fusion Center Documents Label OKC Bombing Investigators as Terrorist. And it's okcbombing.net. And that's State Rep Charles Key, a representative. Look, if you're a representative and you've got the grand juror who found out it was a government operation, Hoppy Heidelberg, and the former head of Air Force Weapons Development about how bombs were in the building, and you have newscasts of them removing the bombs that didn't blow up. You don't see that or you're a terrorist. Of course, only the terrorists would say that, and we know the Attorney General Holder was the Deputy Attorney General at the time, and his emails got released in lawsuits where he said day one, we got to get down there, we got to cover up what really happened. This is a D-Day situation, was the quote. Then we had the head of anti-terrorism lying and saying he wasn't in Oklahoma City. Then it turned out he was, and we have the hotel receipts. And, of course, we have Jane Graham up on the 9th floor of the Oklahoma City building who witnessed McVeigh and other feds and people planning the bombs, and she thought they were telephone men the day before it all happened. So this is the criminals we have that will bomb our government, so the government then will attack the American people. It's very simple. The foreign banks have taken over. They're now fully imploding the planet to bring in their new world order, and they're going to need to stage some terror attacks. Remember all the memos we've covered in the last year where they were top advisors to Obama? It's been the Financial Times of London, you name it, say, you need a new Oklahoma City, sir, publicly. That will save you. You can demonize your detractors and pose as a savior. And now, when that guy shot the White House who was schizophrenic and thought he was Jesus, they blame me for the Obama deception, which is about Obama being a puppet, and it calls for peaceful awakening. Now, joining us to break this down, I guess, is, according to our occupied, it's occupied. I mean, publicly the Pentagon saying, we're taking over. TSA is going to grope your daughters and sons on the highway, is Andrew Griffin of Red Dirt Report, and he joins us from Oklahoma at the epicenter of this. They don't want you looking into what really happened in Oklahoma. You're supposed to believe the fairy tale. Good to have you here with us.
Great to be with you, Alex.
So, Andrew, it says that the website for the Oklahoma City Bombing Investigation Committee, a group convinced that a large Oklahoma City bomb conspiracy exists, members of the legislature in your state are terrorists, according to the feds who actually staged the attack. Of course, I mean, it's just a proven, documented situation. What do you think of this?
Frankly, I couldn't believe it when I read it. When I received this document through some sources that contacted reddirtreport.com last week, I looked into this, and sure enough, it's an official document from the Bureau of Justice Assistance, which is a component of the Department of Justice. They basically work with local, state, and federal agencies to coordinate anti-violence training. So this document was found at a Fusion Center conference in New Orleans in 2010 by some activists, and that's how I learned about this, and we did the story, and sure enough, it's real. okcbombing.net is the website for the Oklahoma Bombing Investigation Committee, which hasn't been around since about 2001 when the final report that they released came out, just right before 9/11, in fact.
Yeah, I remember interviewing them at the time. So how dare the group made up of the former grand jury head and members of the legislature and survivors. They're terrorists because they survived it or lost family members, and they were there and saw the bombs removed and the newscast and the footage of it and the pillars blown out and the witnesses of ATF being involved. They're terrorists. I mean, wow, I mean, they're certainly scared in the federal government of people looking into this.
No, indeed they are. And, I really started digging into this years ago, right around the late 1990s. I read a great book called Oklahoma City Bombing and the Politics of Terror by David Hoffman. And I really learned about that other side of the coin and related to the Oklahoma City bombing. I wasn't even living in Oklahoma at the time. But once I learned more about what was really going on, about the Elohim City connection with Andy the German Strassmeyer, about the connections into Kansas and Michigan, the militia movement and so forth, my senses started just kind of reeling, because I was like, well, this is not just some lone Oswald type. This is clearly a vast conspiracy. And that took me down the path to interviewing Jane Graham, one of the survivors you mentioned, VZ Lawton, and plenty of others here in Oklahoma City. And in the past 5 or 6 years that I've been living here, I've uncovered a lot. And but there's still a cloud of denial, even with the local officials, with residents here in the Oklahoma City area, about what really happened on April 19th, 1995.
Yeah, just like there's denial about the fact that the Pentagon wants to be able to arrest citizens and kill you or throw you in a dungeon forever. I mean, now it's just all public. I mean, it's incredible that we have these mega banks who publicly have hijacked the country. They've hijacked Europe. They're getting rid of our Bill of Rights and Constitution. They're getting rid of liberty and freedom. And they're using terror to cram this down our throats. In fact, let's show the terrorists. It's under domestic terrorism, so it's domestic terrorism to be victims and to be members of the legislature in Oklahoma and to investigate this. Let's go ahead and put the terrorist website on screen for folks for the Oklahoma City investigation group with State Rep Charles Key, who I do intend to get back on the show. Just absolutely horrible and evil that victims of this attack would dare to investigate. It's so un-American to ask questions. You know, Bill Clinton, right after his election on Air Force One, told USA Today and other reporters he owed his re-election to the Oklahoma City bombing. He was way down in the polls, about 41%, and it went up to the 70s right after the attack. He got to grandstand for everybody, and we know about Gulf of Tonkin and all the rest of it. For you, though, researching it, for new viewers out there, why is Oklahoma City important now, and what are some of the smoking guns in your deep research?
Well, you mentioned this NDAA bill that is going to be possibly passing in the Senate and become law and make investigators such as myself or independent-minded people who find there to be real problems with the federal government's version of what happened here in Oklahoma City as terrorists. And that's really what's shocking about this. I think, well, as more people come to find out more information, and I will say, I will make a plug for A Noble Lie, this film that's coming out here with Free Mind Films. They've done an outstanding job uncovering new information, eyewitness testimony that's been previously unreported about what happened, what they saw going on in the building below with the columns and in the days in advance of when the bomb took place. So, you know, the evidence is all around, and it's just a matter of being able to open your eyes and come to see that there was a vast conspiracy, that the federal government did know in advance that that bombing was about to take place, as much as they will deny and obfuscate that fact. So, you know, I expect, you know, as this gets more and more interest among the public, especially here in Oklahoma, because I'm starting to see we're seeing some cracks in the foundation of denial here, and people are starting to think, you know, with bills such as the NDAA bill, and, you know, with the TSA and all the you know, the tyranny that we're having to put up with, people are starting to say, you know, this is not the America I thought I lived in growing up. And so with the Oklahoma City bombing, I think people look back at that time as a time of a fairly peaceful time in our history in the United States. And, you know, we weren't at war necessarily, and this happens, and it just sort of took away your innocence, of course, with the impact of 19 children dying, 168 people in total in the heartland. That was the, you know, that's really what really kind of seared the heart for a lot of people, was that this was, not on the coast in a bigger city. This was in Oklahoma City. I mean,
well, it was done because Waco happened in Central Texas, and that made the government look bad, slaughtering all those people, and the truth had come out. And there was a big states' rights movement happening, centering around Oklahoma City and your legislature. And so it's very simple. I mean, if you go through all of it, and Elohim City and the Southern Poverty Law Center and all of it, I mean, how they orchestrated the entire operation, it's really nightmarish to realize how dangerous these people are, and to realize one of the chief architects of the cover-up of it is now the Attorney General, and it ties into Fast and Furious, where they're caught shipping tens of thousands of guns into Mexico, not just letting them be sold out of shops, and shipping them to people in Illinois, Indiana, Tampa, Florida, and then allowing drugs to be shipped back in. That's in the Chicago Tribune, that's in the El Paso Times, but never became a big national story that the government's also shipping tons of cocaine in. I mean, this is just a criminal enterprise. I talked earlier about Congress saying, hey, we're allowed to insider trade now. I mean, it's just they're really flaunting it in our face. I would say they're pimping us. They're breaking our will. They're putting cigarettes out on us right now and saying, you know what? We are criminals. And you know what? Investigating our operations, you're the terrorist. You're going to say the government's terrorist or elements of it, you're the terrorist. And it's so incredibly transparent. I mean, they've listed Infowars.com before and gone after me and other documents, but this one lists Anti-War, which is a milquetoast libertarian site, as usual, an unusual site, essentially an isolationist right-wing libertarian site. And it goes on to design to appeal to anti-war activists from the left as well. And it says, Journal of the Moorish Paradigm, Ending Corporate Governance. I mean, these are evil Americans involved in their First Amendment. These are, and people can joke about this, say, oh, they don't really think you're terrorist. Pre-9/11, I have footage in my film Road to Tyranny that everybody's got to go watch. It's free online. The DVD's available at Infowars.com, where it's squad car video of at a checkpoint, and they jerk this woman out of the car and are searching it. And they find a pocket constitution, and they begin hyperventilating in fear as if they had found the baby Satan. I mean, as if they'd opened and it was a dimensional portal into Hades. And it's like they've sworn an oath to it, but they thought it was a demonic entity. I mean, they were, oh, can't believe we found it. Is it legal? And they have a debate about, is the Constitution legal? And I mean, it's like these people are Manchurian candidates or something.
Right. Well, Alex, a story that I've been kind of following is, and I've written a little bit about, and you featured it on Infowars, was how Louis Freeh, the former FBI director under Clinton, is reappearing everywhere. If you haven't noticed this, he's going to be investigating the Penn State pedophile scandal. He's going to be investigating MF Global. You see these characters from...
He'll fix everything.
Well, it's interesting that John Corzine and Louis Freeh are from practically the same neighborhood. So, and they're from the same fraternity and so forth. So you kind of wonder, is this really going to be investigated or not? And then, of course, you have the Penn State issue.
I'm sure he'll investigate.
So I've been looking at a lot of connections related to Freeh and some of these new controversial stories that have been coming up lately. And
now there's Syracuse and the ESPN cover-up of that. I mean, this is just how they roll. It's a crew of, sickos. But expanding on that, what's your view on the whole Fast and Furious? I mean, right there's an example of them shipping guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment, but also let the drug cartels knock out their competition and ship that lovely white stuff up into ATF, FBI, DEA, Border Patrol, and several other agencies that were involved. I mean, these are confirmed criminals.
Right. And I was, in fact, this Thanksgiving weekend, I spent time with family in southern Arizona, and the Border Patrol's everywhere. And I'm thinking, they were, asking us, looking at me like, are you an American citizen? And sniffing how the drug dogs are sniffing, and I'm a criminal,
Oh, yeah, they're not. But the illegal aliens, I've talked to them, that they're allowed to go.
Right. Yeah. And so, I'm probably about 80 miles from the Mexican border around Tombstone, Arizona, and I'm thinking, this is happening well within the confines of American territory. Why are they harassing us? And and then I think about the guns being shipped down into Sonora and these other narco states within Mexico, and it's just they turn a blind eye to it, like so many things. I mean, isn't this poppy harvest season in Afghanistan right now in November? So I'm sure we'll see a rise in heroin on the streets.
Oh well.